Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session, Got Paper, Got Math. We're about to start. If you haven't already, please grab some paper, scissors, tape, or a glue stick now so you can participate. Please be ready to use the Jamboard. The bit.ly is right there, and it'll be going in the chat soon. If I haven't already introduced myself, I'm Naomi Really. I'm a team member of the Early Math Project.
And I'm Lisa Grant, also a member of the Early Math Project.
And I'm Carolyn Pfister. Thank you for joining us today. One of the things that we are hoping that you will do with us today is play along with us, try all of the activities that you see us doing. That's why we asked you to get the paper and the tape and why we're giving you a little bit of time to assemble those things if you haven't gotten them already. In the chat function today, we're really hoping that you will share with us what you notice that's going on mathematically. If there are certain math concepts that you think you could reinforce or share with children using these activities, please share those. Are there vocabulary words that would be important for children to know? And there are going to be opportunities for you to take pictures of your creations and share them on the Jamboard. Please do those things because it will make it much more fun and interactive. And besides, we really want to see what you're up to. Thanks.
Great. So we're going to start with, can you walk through paper? Give me 1 second as I shift to a different camera view. So we're going to start with just one piece of paper. That's all you'll need, and you'll also need some scissors.
Naomi, I just want to mention that apparently the Jamboard has a limit of the number of people who can join. Is there a way to increase that?
Not that I know of. So why don't we, if you're not already on the Jamboard, continue to participate in the chat, and we'll work on the back end to fix that. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is fold our paper in half. I'm gonna fold it hamburger style. You want it to line up pretty nicely, and then just make that crease. And if the Jamboard's not loading for you, no problem. The chat will, and we can post stuff in there. We still want you to participate and follow along. All right, so after you folded it in half, you'll now have, you want to keep it folded. The next thing is you're going to grab your scissors, and we're going to cut a little notch along the fold. And so what we want to do is leave a little bit of piece of paper left on both sides. So I'm going to cut about 1/2 inch and go the depth about 1/4, 1/2 of an inch too. And then cut almost all the way across, but leave the same amount of space on the other side. Look something like that. You'll have now 2 little notches on either side. When you open it up, you'll be able to see that there's still paper left. All right, so we want to keep that folded. We're going to keep it folded until the very end. And so the next thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to make some of these cuts. As you can see on the left upper corner, there's cuts made on the diagram. And so that's what we're going to do too. So we're going to start where that first notch is, and we're going to cut up, but not all the way through the paper. So I'm going to leave about 1/2 inch left on the open side. And then what I like to do is I like to switch it over so that it reminds me I'm going to start my cut on the open side and cut almost all the way down, but leaving that little. We don't want to cut all the way through because we want to keep it attached. Please keep it attached. When it comes to the width, it's really up to you. I'm doing, I don't know, it kind of looks like 1/2 inch for my width. And so we're going to make these cuts all along the the paper. And we want to keep it folded the whole time. Again, we do not want to cut all the way through. We want every little piece to still be attached by just a little leftover paper. And so, as I said earlier, I like to move it back and forth. So I'm making sure I make the cut the right way. As we're getting to the halfway point and further than that, something to note is your last cut needs to be aligned with your second notch. So as I'm cutting, I know I have a couple more cuts I can make. If I need to, I might need to make some of them smaller so I can end with my last cut right against the last notch. And so I'm going to actually make two. See how I have not that much space left? I'm going to make two little cuts, one that way and one from the open side. And then my last cut is lined up with that notch. All right. Now, what do we think we're going to do with this? Do you think you can open it up and see what you created? So I see that I've created a giant hole. So in the chat, or if you're on the Jamboard and it's loading, can you put how big you think your hole is that you created with the piece of paper? And then also you might want to think about what you can do to make this hole bigger that you made with a single piece of paper. Is there anything that you can do that would make it bigger? Like I said, if you're on the Jamboard, we would love to see those photos. If you're not able to get on there, please add in the chat what you created and some of your explorations. Great. I see some things coming in. Oh, someone said they're going to make a pattern.
Naomi, somebody also asked, I saw up earlier in the questions, if it mattered the way you folded the paper the first time. And we folded it what we refer to as being hamburger style, but the question was, could you fold it hot dog style? What do you guys think now that we've done this? Do you think it would have mattered if we'd folded it the lengthwise?
Yeah, I would love to hear some people's explorations. Did anyone fold it lengthwise?
Wow, somebody said their hole is 6 feet wide.
Wow.
They must have made some really small cuts. Wow. I think mine's only about 3.
Wow, that's great.
Somebody noted and responded to you that the smaller the strips that you cut, the bigger your hole's going to be. So thanks, Mary Lou, for noting that.
Great. So something else you can think about, and I see this, some people put it in the chat already, is can you walk through the hole you cut out? I know I could put this around myself, and now I have it kind of around me like a hula hoop. And then something else we would love for you guys to add to the chat is what math did we use while we did this? We'd love to hear what you think with some of those math explorations.
Do you want to see the Jamboard?
Yeah.
This is what we have.
Great.
Oh, right on.
Great. It's like great. Thank you, everyone, for participating. I'm going to leave you with 2 more questions. So to think about, maybe you'll try this later on with your students or other children that you interact with. Can you walk through an index card? So do you think that you would be able to do this with an index card? I've even tried it with a little sticky note. So it's really fun to explore what's the smallest piece of paper you can use it with.
And then maybe once you've posted your comment or picture, you could jump off so other people could get on.
Great.
Oh, I like that. We can have children decorate it and use it as a necklace. Really
Very creative.
make a game. How many items will fit into it?
Oh, it's really fun. All right. Well, thanks for doing this activity with us. I'm going to pass it over to Lisa for our next one.
Okay, let me toggle that off. Oh, there you go. So what I need you to do is grab a fresh sheet of paper. And we're going to play with some paper loops. It's going to look a lot like those paper chains you used to make when you were a kid, but they're not going to be interlocked. So take your fresh sheet of paper, and what I'd like you to do is cut 6 long strips. So if I fold this hot dog style lengthwise, I can cut 2 at a time. And it doesn't matter if the widths are equal. Just make them approximately equal, but this way I can cut them 2 at a time. 2, 4, and then the last cut will be on that fold. And if I know sometimes it's hard to follow along with an actual hands-on activity. If you're having pacing issues, if I'm too fast or too slow, please mention it in the chat.
And also this, there's a Jamboard sheet for this. It's just the second sheet, so you can always switch over to that one.
There's an arrow at the top.
Oh, you know what? I saw something in the chat that really makes me happy. Somebody said, great activity after I gave it another try. And isn't that what this is all about, is kind of
cool.
Going for it. Yes, thank you.
So you've got 6 long strips. I'd like you to take 3 of them and set them aside. We will use those in a little minute, as opposed to a big minute. Take your 3 remaining strips, and I'd like you to make 3 loops, just straight loops, like a paper chain kind of idea. You're going to want to make those joins really strong. So if you're using tape, you're going to want to tape it on the inside and the outside for all 3 of those. We will be manipulating these paper loops in a minute, so that join has to be pretty strong.
And someone asked if this is on PowerPoint. We'll upload our slides after our presentation. They'll be accessible to everyone.
So I've got my 3 loops. Jill, you're finishing up.
I'm getting there, Lisa. I've got my final one to do still.
Hey, our colors match. They're both pink. Anything about slow or fast, Miss Naomi?
No, looks like we're good.
Okay. So you've got 3 straight loops. Set one of them aside. We'll use that in just a sec. With these 2, I'd like you to join them one on top of the other at a 90-degree angle, just like this. And again, make that join really strong. Tape it on the inside and the outside.
So these loops are going to be what, perpendicular to each other, Lisa?
Perpendicular, absolutely. Good mathy word. 90-degree angle, perpendicular. I've got these all taped up. I have to confess, I did have to have my tape ready because it helps me. So now you've got kind of a weird 8. And what we're going to do, as we're doing this, think about a couple of things. How would you use this with kids? What's the math we're noticing? And what do you predict will happen to the paper when we're done with what we're doing? And I'm going to tell you what we're doing right now. We're going to cut through the center of each loop. And one way to do that is to make a snip in the center and then insert the tip of your scissors into that snip. I snipped it right in the join. And cut through the center of one loop at a time. What do you think it will look like when you're done cutting the first loop? And I won't finish on purpose so that you can enter your guesses.
People are saying shapes, circles, maybe.
Circles, okay.
A lot of people are putting shapes. I think they're talking about what math is found here.
Okay, thank you. We are going to make a shape. But what is that shape going to be?
Oh, that they're talking about what other math things that they can explore with their students. Someone said problem solving.
Mm-hmm. Definitely perseverance, right? Speaking of Linda's math practices. So when you cut that first loop, it's going to look like maybe old school headphones or earmuffs. Kind of looks like a hamster water bottle holder. I don't know. I just thought of that. And then go ahead and cut that second loop, which is now a straight line. And again, I want you to think about what will it look like when you're done cutting? What's your prediction?
Someone before had said it looked like a weight.
Oh,
Okay. Like a barbell kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
Cool.
We're just cutting straight across now.
this is kind of neat because I've got two 90-degree angles when I cut, and that was kind of unexpected.
Just two?
Well, I haven't cut it all the way through, but maybe it's fair to assume I'll have more based upon that statement, Lisa.
I don't know. The first time I did this, I was like, what? That is so cool.
Oh my goodness, there it is.
So we took two circles and we made a square. And how do we know it's a square? All the sides are equal because remember those strips were all the same length. So we made a square. Okay, set that aside. That's one of the activities.
Very cool. If
And
you would like
go ahead.
If you would like to post, we would love to see photos of your square in the Jamboard. Looks like a lot of people are getting squares, and this is amazing. Someone said that they can make it into a greenhouse. Be definitely the base of your house.
Cool. Or it could be the roof, I guess, if you folded it. Oh. Okay. So you were going to take the other three the other three strips that we set aside and take one of those. And we're going to make a loop again, but this is going to have a twist, literally. I'd like you to twist it either way, just once, and then join the ends. And again, you want to make that join really secure. I held the top of it and twisted the bottom. Does anybody know what we made? What is that called? Put that in the chat.
Someone's asking if you can go a little slower.
Sure.
Let them catch up since now we're switching activities.
Yeah. So we should now have a straight loop and a twisted loop. That's where we're at. And I will put these out of the frame. Whoa. Does anybody know what this special shape is called? Everything has a name, right?
People are putting in Mobius strip.
It is a Mobius strip. And it has some very special properties. And we will uncover some of those special properties in just a second. Trying to give people enough time to catch up. That twist might be difficult the first time. So we're going to compare cutting the straight loop versus the twisted loop down the center like we did with our joined loops. What do you think you'll get if you cut this straight loop down the center? Make a prediction. Any predictions in the chat?
Someone said infinity loop. A lot of infinity loops.
Oh, on the straight one. Okay.
Oh, someone asked if you can repeat it, what we're doing.
So we have a straight loop and a twisted loop. And we're cutting down the center of each one. So for the straight loop, when I cut it down the center, I end up with 2 circles, same diameter, but the width is narrower. Of course, it's a half of what it was.
And someone asked also if you could make the twist again. That came in a couple times.
Oh, sure. So what I do is I hold the top and I twist the bottom and then match up the ends. Was that in frame? I wasn't watching.
I know when I do this, I hold the paper
What it was?
firmly in one end, and then I take the other one and just instead of just connecting them this way, I just flip one over, and that gives me that additional twist in the paper. And then I tape them together like that.
Yeah. We also are having a lot of predictions come in. So then we have 2 loops. Straight, we have 2 circles. Great.
Okay, and I'm hoping everybody's caught up. I can't tell. Go ahead and cut through the center of the twisted loop now. So you can do the same thing. Snip it. Put the end of your scissors into the snip and cut through the center of the Mobius strip. Oh. Okay. What do you think you're going to get?
Something that's very different than the first group.
Yeah, it's still connected, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's still a twist, and it's just longer and narrower.
Mine looks a lot like a figure 8.
It does, or if you turn it sideways, an infinity sign symbol. Okay. And if you want to post those in the Jamboard, that would be very cool. Do you want me to show the Jamboard or?
No,
No,
we don't have too many things going on there yet.
Okay. Do y'all need a minute? I'm seeing a lot of exclamation marks. That's awesome. Again, you want to be thinking about how you're going to do this with children and all the math that's being used. Okay. So I already made one of my twisted one when I was demonstrating the twist again. So the other 2 strips you have left over, you're going to make 2 twisted loops. Oh, but I don't know which way I went on that one. You want to make sure that you do one to the left and one to the right. So
Lisa, when you're saying that, do you mean that when you put together that you twist the paper?
What I do is I hold the top and the bottom, and I twist the bottom to the left on this. What I'm doing there. My paper's a little stiff, and then connect. So this one is to the left. And I want to make sure that my other one is to the right. So I'm going to have to give another piece of paper.
So it sounds like the way you twist the paper is going to make a big difference to the outcome.
It does. You will not end up with the same shape that we're going for if you don't twist one to the right, one to the left. Once you've twisted them, it doesn't matter which is which. I am going to cut one more loop because I don't know which way that was twisted. So I'll demonstrate the twist again. That was to the left, is that correct? Left. So I'm going to go to the right on this one and join. I don't know how, but I ended up with just enough tape.
Yay. That's always good when it works out.
Always good, right? Make those joins really secure.
So this is pretty much what we did with the first one
Yeah.
when we put them together.
So we're going to, again, join these top to bottom, one on top of the other. Doesn't matter which goes first, as long as they're twisted in opposite directions. And you're going to join them at a 90-degree angle again. Oh, I did need more tape. Come on. You want to tape on the inside, the outside, both sides of the loop. Lots of tape. What ages do you think kids could follow along? Maybe a lower bound. Do you think 3-year-olds could do this? 4-year-olds? How young? Okay, so you've got 2 twisted loops joined together perpendicular to each other. And again, we're going to cut through the center of each one. But while you're doing that, I want you to predict what will happen. And this is pretty astounding. I just love this activity.
Some people put that this could be a fun as a magic show where children investigate how cutting one of these becomes 2 and the other becomes 1. People are putting 5 to 6-year-olds.
Okay.
2nd and 3rd grade. A lot of people are saying at least 6 years old or older.
Okay. Is that due to the fine motor or the instructions difficulty? Again, you're cutting through the center of each loop. No, I want my scissors go. I want you to think about what you're going to get, and you might have to fluff it and zhuzh it a little bit to get it to the right shape. Did it come apart, Carolyn?
It did
happen.
But actually, I'm kind of glad I didn't do this intentionally, but this kind of is an indication of what happens if you don't do both of your twists, one to the left and one to the right. So I got something that looks a little bit like a boat and then a twisted part. So
you think you did it to the same one?
Yeah, I didn't do it intentionally this way, but it's the way it worked out.
So if you did it one to the left, one to the right, you will get interlocking hearts. And that's our Valentine to you. 5 months late.
Great. Well, we'd love to see your Valentine in the Jamboard. Keep posting them. Great. So just think it's time to move on to our last activity.
All right. So our final activity, we're going to explore a little bit with tangrams. Tangrams are puzzles that are made up of 7 polygons. There are 5 triangles, a square, and a parallelogram. And generally, a tangram is used to make images. The shapes that you cut are laid flat, and you make other images with them. So just like with the other activities, we're going to start with a piece of paper. And what we want to do is begin, if you've got a rectangular piece of paper, the first thing that we need to do is turn it into a square. And you can do that by folding one of the corners of the paper down, trying to align the 2 sides carefully and make this crease. And what you're going to end up with that is then really a paper that looks a lot like a trapezoid. It is a trapezoid. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut off this flap of paper along the side so that we have a square. You won't be needing this piece of paper. You can go ahead and just put it aside. So here we are with our square. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut along that diagonal line that you created when you made the square a moment ago. And when you do this, cut carefully because we want to end up with 2 congruent triangles. Same size, same shape. When you place one on top of the other, they should be identical. Okay. And you're not going to need both of these immediately. So I'm going to ask you to put just one of them aside. And we're going to begin cutting this and folding this piece so that you can begin creating those 7 shapes we talked about. So with this triangle, I'd like you to fold it, but not crease it. I'd like you to fold it so that your 2 corners or vertices line up, and then give just a little pinch at the bottom. That's going to tell you the midpoint of the base of this triangle. And we are going to take this top point or vertex, and we are going to fold it downward so that it aligns with that little crease mark that we put a moment ago. We're going to fold it from side to side. So we have this triangular flap, and we have this trapezoid. And what we're going to do now is open it up, and we are going to cut along this fold line. Again, try and be precise. So this little triangle that I cut off of the top is the first piece of our tangram set. And you are going to need this. I'd like you to put it aside. We'll be doing something with it in a moment. Now with the trapezoid that you have left, you are going to take this and you are going to fold it from side to side, like you see me doing. Put a nice firm crease along the edge here. And what I'd like you to do now is to cut it apart. We'll need both sides of we'll need both of these pieces, but we're going to work on changing one of them first. So go ahead and just put one of them aside. Now, I'd like you to think of this as being a shoe. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is because we're going to be folding it in a moment. And if you think about the different parts of the shoe, it will help you make those folds. So this would be where your toes would be if it was a shoe. This would be where, if it was a lacing pair of shoes, the laces would be. And this is the heel of your shoe. So I'm going to refer to it that way. So we're going to do the very painful thing of taking our toes and bending them right back to the heel.
Carolyn, they've asked us to slow down just a little bit.
Okay, I can actually do that again. So here's our shoe, which is actually a trapezoid. And we are going to fold this part of the shoe, where we would have the toes, so it touches the heel.
For anyone who might be really behind, I'm going to start the activity from the beginning without any instructions, but in this lower corner. So if you need some of those beginning instructions, you might be able to catch up as Carolyn's going forward with everyone else.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and cut this. And now we have the medium-sized triangle that we cut a moment ago. We have a square, and we have the first of the small triangles that you're going to need for your tangram set. So we're going to take the trapezoid that we had just a moment ago, and we put aside, and we're going to fold this one a little bit differently. So with this one, we want to think about where the heel would be, and we're going to fold the heel of the shoe up to where you would lace it.
Oh, and those sides match.
And I won't cut it yet because I'll do that again. So this would be the trapezoid. We're going to take this bottom corner and we're going to fold it up, thinking again, if this was a shoe, where you would lace the shoe. And then what we should have is a parallelogram and a triangle. And we're going to cut that apart. And those are the 4th and 5th pieces of your tangram set. And you'll notice that if you've been really precise, you now have 2 triangles that are congruent or the same. They're the same size, same shape.
I do.
So we're going to go back to that large triangle that we started with at the beginning. And this is going to be our final cut. And we're going to go ahead and fold this in half. And we are going to cut this apart.
If you're frustrated and behind, don't worry, these will be uploaded later, but you can try again. These instructions.
So if I'll pause a little bit. If you are done, why don't you take a moment and see if you can reassemble the shapes that you have just cut out back into the square. I'll do that as well.
Oh, a lot of transformations happening here. slide, flip, and turn.
Yeah, a lot of them.
If I can remember how this goes. No.
All right. So I'm going to move this on. I'm going to put a couple of tangram creations up there on the screen. There are some different types of, I guess, ocean creatures. And what we'd like to ask you to do is try to make one of these, or if you're not, I don't know, if you don't like these, then please go ahead and make your own tangram creation and go ahead and post those into the Jamboard. I think I'm going to try that middle whale. Is anybody, Lisa or Naomi, or either one of you going to try one?
I am trying the fish, the first fish.
Okay.
I was really hoping somebody would post on the Jamboard.
Yeah, we would love to see anything that you created. As we continue to explore, if there's any steps that you miss, please let us know in the chat, and we can move the PowerPoint a little bit back so you can see those instructions. But also, like Carolyn and Lisa both said, that everything's recorded, so we will be posting this. We will also be posting the slides so you can access them. So I made the fish. I might try to make a squirrel now.
I'm finding that doing this upside down is more challenging than I thought.
Very brave. I am trying to make a house, and I'm not liking what I'm doing. Try again. Ooh, that's interesting. It's a giant chimney. A very tall house.
Now, if you're creating anything, we'd love to see it in the Jamboard or let us know in the comments.
I'm not seeing it.
There's a really good suggestion about printing out the shapes and having the kids color and cut them.
So while people are doing this, I want to mention that if you're looking for a book that focuses on tangrams, this is kind of a fun one. It's called Grandfather Tang's Story, and one of the things that we like about it is that the entire story is told through tangrams. And if you are looking for resources for that particular book, it happens to be one that is reviewed on the Early Math Project website, and there are a lot of different resources that go with it. There also on the website, there are templates for making the numbers 0 through 9 and lots of the other shapes. There are broken shapes and solid shapes. And there's also a template for cutting these out so that if you're working with children who are, not at the place where they're going to create their own, that it's easy to create those for them so that they can manipulate them and talk and learn about them. So I can see that we are quickly running out of time. So I think what I'd like to do is just ask you maybe as a final question, would you try this with children and what ages? And to put in the chat what math you saw that we used. What did you notice? The resources that I mentioned are found at the www.earlymathca.org/tangrams. And if you enjoyed working with the paper activities that we did. Lisa and I will be back again during the optional lunch recess that starts at 12:10. Do some kirigami exploration. So we'd be happy for you to join us if you want to. If
Can you
to
show the book again?
What?
Can you show the book again? There's
Sure.
many asked about it in the chat.
It's called Grandfather Tang's Story. Lots of fun. I will say that with this book, I have used it with my students from kindergarten through 8th grade in varying different ways. It's kind of a fun story. It grabs a lot of interest. There are a lot of opportunities to do multi-age partnerings with it, so it's a really versatile story. So anyway, I hope you come back and see us at lunch. Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Everyone.